It is episode 127 of the Metal Roundtable. I am Metal Rob, and with me, as always, is the great
Carcass John.
There
and
he is.
continuing to be new and improved with the great.
Scott, this space is for rent. Waters.
I like it. Episode 127, man, it's crazy.
That's insane.
It's not like a milestone episode, but I can't believe that it's that many. And Richie is already on board.
Oh man, and that
Gonna be a good show. I need to send him the picture, my new calendar picture. Dang. Okay, I'll send it, buddy.
Yeah, his icon picture is really cute. Way to go, Richie.
Is it your calendar pictures like you wearing like a police uniform or something, or a firefighter uniform?
No.
No?
So
Holding a bullwhip?
Just a
Richie
firefighter hat,
said
nothing
funny-
else.
He sorry, I am getting blown up on my phone for a minute here. Richie sends me funny Christmas gifts, and the last 2 years, last year he sent me a calendar of dogs shitting and a blow up doll.
That's what friends are
this
for,
year-
I guess, right?
And this year he continued the tradition of the dogs taking a dump in beautiful landscapes. And so when I turn the calendar every month, I send him a picture. But anyway, I want to do a shout out if y'all are cool with that. That's what we typically do. And I can read your shirt, Tigers of Pantang.
I'm trying to take it easy on you guys. I don't want you to.
Come on.
There's so much tension in the world that we've got to. Never mind.
Yeah, there really is. So I'm so sleep deprived that I can't remember when I did this. I don't remember if it was on the show because I've ordered soap on the show, so I'll order some shit on you. But there you go. So I ordered a couple things. Richie says male blow up doll. He was right. Yep, it was a male blow up doll. Correct.
I'm
Anyway.
not even gonna take the bait.
I think it was maybe for the no fee Bandcamp Friday or something. But anyway, I ordered a couple things from Tanner, singer guitarist of Madrast, who we've had on the show, and Scott and I have had the tremendous pleasure of working on the reissues of a good bit of Tanner's catalog. So anyway, I ordered 2 shirts. Box comes today. Remember, ordered 2 shirts. Here's what I got. Shirt number 1.
Ooh,
Very
dude.
nice. Thank you. Paid for that. Yes, I did. Shirt number 2. Here we go. The rare for me white t-shirt.
Oh, that's
Again,
cool. That's a cool
Very,
graphic.
yep, reminiscent of saw blade or carcass artwork. So cool. Another shirt. So that's what I paid for. Here's a bonus t-shirt from Tanner's show.
Pop's Corner.
Oh,
Yep.
cool.
Stoked to have that. Then we dig deeper into the box and we have koozie, Charring the Rotting Earth tape,
Yes.
complete with sticker. And we have Poppets Corner koozie, complete with The Essence of Time Matches No Flesh cassette.
That is a great.
So that was a bonus. But wait, there's more.
No, wow.
Carcass John is along for this ride, and he will be receiving a Madrast koozie, a Charring the Rotting Earth cassette, a Poppets Corner koozie, and another The Essence of Time Matches No Flesh tape. So Tanner loves you, buddy.
Yay.
He
I love
hooked you
Tanner.
up, man.
Good dude, man.
For
Heck
real.
of a guitar player and a killer band.
I love that band. And I'm not saying that because I got to work on their stuff. It's just a really cool flavor of thrash that I dig a lot. And I've really enjoyed being privileged to work on his stuff. And so my shout out is to Tanner Poppet of Madrost. Thank you for the extra goodies. That is so kind and so much appreciated. I'm a dork and I wash my shirts before I wear them. So we'll maybe see them in a future episode. Look at that.
Speaking of
yeah.
speaking of a cool flavor of thrash, Mark Chaos Massacre from Melbourne, Australia has joined us. What's up, Mark? That's my shout out. Keep riffing, keep shredding, keep destroying.
I'm murdering my thirst right now.
Yes.
Talk about that Madrost record, Scott.
Oh, this thing is fantastic. This is the second album from Madrost. First time on vinyl, new cover, way better cover, by the way. Absolutely phenomenal cover art. Remastered, sounds great. Inserts, the whole bit on No Life to Metal Records. There are only 100 copies available through No Life to Metal Records, and we've sold through at least half of them. So if you're interested, get it quick. NoLifeToMetalRecords.com.
Yep, and it came out it coincided with another release, yes?
Yes, it did. I got it right here. Want me to show it? I will.
I sure do.
It's right here.
You talk about something I'm proud to have worked on. From the original DAT tapes, which never happens, although I won't show you who this is.
You have it right there?
Here's a pile of DAT tapes I'm going to be working on for unnamed release.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't say anything
right
there. Yeah, dude. That thing came out nice. I was so stoked to get mine in the mail.
I can't believe how much better the printing came out than the original. I mean, everything is brighter and the color's richer. There's less weird little dots all over it because I have an original. We use the original.
Well, it's not 1990 anymore, man.
Right.
Technology on our side.
And the back cover. Now this one comes with a poster, a 12 by 18 poster, and inserts, the vinyl obviously, and the CD's got 4 bonus tracks on it as well. Yes. And it's got like a 16-page booklet with tons of photographs and whatnot. Worked with both you guys on that one, so
the record was pretty much your traditional, reissue of the with the original songs. The artwork is very much the same, although you certainly did a great job cleaning it up and making it nice and cool, nice and modern. But and then the CD, yes, definitely has the
1991
demo.
Yep, 1991 demo. Yep.
Okay. Yep. I couldn't remember. So,
which I've heard from several people who say it sounds better than the original album. Which I don't know that I think it's better than, but it's at least as good as.
And here are more. I can't show you the other side.
Stop it.
Things that I'll be working on.
Stop it.
Scott and I have a lot of freaking work to do.
I can tell you right now one that I've been working on and I've been jamming on for the last 2 weeks now. But we are releasing 5 Flotsam and Jetsam albums on gold CD and cassette. And Rob did the remastering. Some of them have bonus tracks, some of them don't. But yeah, it's the gold discs will be amazing. They always are, and a lot of them have never been released on cassette before. So, and they're releasing one of my absolute favorites from Flotsam and Jetsam. They're releasing "Ugly Noise," which I think is a fantastic album. It was them stretching out a little bit and trying something a little bit different. But we're also releasing their first 2 albums, sort of. We're releasing got that one right here too. All the stuff's around me because I've been working on it. We're releasing Doomsday for the Deceiver on cassette. It's gonna be a really cool lime green cassette, chrome cassettes, and remastered with cool photographs inside of it and whatnot. Yep. But we also are releasing No Place for Disgrace 2014 on cassette, which also has never been on cassette before. So
yeah, these are all on Matt Hunt's label, Brutal Planet.
Brutal Planet Records, yep.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get him to come on one day and just kind of do a little label thing and talk about what he's doing. And
he's got some amazing stuff coming up. I'm not going to say anything else because it's not my business, but because I've seen him say stuff about the Flotsam online, I'm okay saying that one. So
right, there's some.
The Nevermores that he did came out incredible. I mean, those things are absolutely incredible. They sound good. They look good. The Nevermore fans online just seem to be loving it. I'm hoping there's gonna be more Nevermore, so we'll see.
Yeah, Matt puts out. I've known Matt for a long time, and I'm glad when he asked me to start working with him on these releases, years ago. Man, he puts out top-notch stuff. So if you're not familiar with Brutal Planet Records, go check that out because Matt's got some really cool releases and a couple of underground things that you might want to check out that maybe you've never heard of. So, man, we've worked on a lot of stuff for him over the years.
Oh man, that's a killer record. That Brainstorm.
Yep.
Is that like a metal box, or is that just a digipack?
It's a German digipack, two CD pressing.
Okay, there you go.
But I'm showing this for a reason, but I'm not saying anything.
I'm also not saying anything.
I have a couple shout outs too, by the way. If you're done, I didn't know if you were.
Good, man.
All right, so I got a package in the mail from, and I was almost afraid to show it because of what's going on in the world right now. But I got a package in the mail from Russia, and this is a Disillumination from Russia. Fantastic death metal, a little doomy at times, but I mean, I would just call it great death metal. That's the outer packaging, which is on this black uncoated paper with a gold foil stamp, and then it slides out. It's got the cassette inside. It's got the unreadable logo. Let's see if you can see it or not.
Oh yeah, no chance.
Awesome.
And then it's got the J, of course, the J card and download code, which I'm not going to show because I haven't had a chance to download it yet. I usually don't, but I'm going to do it on this one. But yeah, this is really, really good. I only heard the cassette so far, but they also sent me the CD, which is also in one of these black cases with the gold foil stamp and the CD booklet and everything inside. It's really, really good stuff. But I also want to show, I got a Grail in my collection that I have been wanting for 30 some years. I mean, this is literally one I saw when I was like in high school, and I've wanted it ever since and never could find a copy for a decent price. And I know a lot of people don't probably give a crap about this kind of stuff, but it is a Japanese promo only, so it was not released to the general public. It was a promotional thing only, released in 1975.
Oh, you got it.
New York's Heavy Metal Sound. That's the name of the album.
You finally got it.
I finally got a copy, and there it is.
Wow.
Blue Oyster Cult and Aerosmith.
Split.
It's basically a compilation of Blue Oyster Cult tracks and one side of Get Your Wings, because this is 75, so it was only Aerosmith wasn't that popular yet, so they're actually the B side, and Blue Oyster Cult is the A side. It's also funny because they weren't really. I mean, you kind of equate Aerosmith with New York, but they were really a Boston band,
right?
But regardless, it's funny. I always like showing this album to people that say heavy metal didn't exist in the 70s, or people didn't use the term heavy metal in the 70s. Yeah, they did. This is 75, so yeah, they did. We did.
Man, I'm glad you got that.
Yeah, I finally bit the bullet, and I'm like, you know what? It's going to disappear. I'm never going to see it again, and I just bought it.
That's awesome. I'm glad you did. I've shopped for that several times on your behalf, looking around, and man, they are impossible.
Yeah, I've been looking for 30 years, and I've never, ever actually even held one in my hand.
So you alluded, Carcass, were you good on your shout-outs?
Oh, yeah, and, this thing about what's going on in the world, I have a couple of Russian neighbors and a guy from Lithuania down the street, and, nobody wants what's going on, and can't we all get along? So, and I know we've got killer music over there. In fact, I've really been into some bands like Rehabilitator, who's from Ukraine, the Restoned, a killer power trio from Moscow, and it's just like you read their social media feeds and they're shaking their heads, going, "What are you guys doing? You're kind of ruining our vibe." So hopefully, cooler heads prevail. This thing goes away and we get back to music. But shout out to those guys for toughing it out, and it's just. I mean, it's just the way the world is nowadays. It's just in total, utter chaos at times, and sometimes music is the binding element, and sometimes it makes us sad because we can't hear more new music.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends that live in Kiev, and I reached out to one of them on Fedora on Facebook. Just, hey man, thinking about you, and I haven't heard anything. I'm sure their internet situation is chaos, but and haven't talked to him in many years, but just reached out with a word of encouragement. So hopefully everything's good there. But we are not here to solve the world's problems.
No,
we're here to talk about metal, and that's what we're going to do today. So Scott alluded earlier to Flotsam on one of their albums, kind of changing up their sound and going a different direction, trying something new. So that's what we're going to talk about today. For good, bad, or worse, we're going to talk about bands that have changed their sound. And we don't necessarily need to go, round robin order or anything like that. I'll just throw out the one that comes to my mind first, and then we'll just get the discussion going. And we'll just see where it goes. Please post your questions if you have any, and your comments as always.
Let us know if you know of what bands you think of that are, change their sound drastically from one album to the next.
Right. Yeah. Let us know what you think, and we'll get into it. You're going to see some half-assed production today because I am on fumes with no sleep. So this could be a fun, bumpy ride.
Hey, what else is new? This is the way we roll.
So Richie starts out immediately with Generation Swine. Fraser chimes in with Lulu. But here's mine. The first one that comes to mind every time I think of a band changing their sound, I think of Def Leppard. Every time. I think of that new wave of British heavy metal, straight ahead rock and roll, heavy metal, whatever you wanted to call it, on those first two albums. And I consider Pyromania still a really great Def Leppard album. The GOAT will disagree, saying that the first two are the only true Def Leppard albums. But to me, they didn't really turn the corner until Hysteria. And that, to me, was the most jarring musical change in my metal life was Def Leppard. What do you boys think?
I 100% agree. I think that the first two albums I like the best. They were definitely of the new wave of British heavy metal vibe, even with, the great production of High and Dry. But with Pyromania, they stepped up the production more. It got very clean and sterile. It's still a hard rock or heavy metal record. With anything after that, it was just a total downward spiral. It just Ged, what do you got to say?
No, I agree with you. In fact, there he is, Terry Sullivan, who sort of chimed in the other night. We were kind of going back and forth talking about stuff like this. He was telling me that, like the Cult, for example, their first two records are just straight up kind of in the AC/DC vibe, heavy, fast, quality riffing, and then they just sort of spun off. But I like the Def Leppard thing. In fact, Rick Perry was just here not too long ago, hanging out and signing some posters for me, and he even admitted, he said, yeah, the first two Def Leppards, as you mentioned, were killer, and then they really just, like you said, spun out of control. But then I guess we need to ask the question then, did the change hurt them or help them? And as far as selling records, it really helped them. But let's take for example, right here in our own backyard in Texas, Pantera.
Yep.
They were basically a Doc and Van Halen backyard cover band, and then along comes Phil Anselmo, and what did they become? They became something completely different.
Yeah, that is almost the tale of two bands. I mean, that was an extreme change. Now, I'll be honest, I like both versions, if you will, of the band equally, because I love glam metal, I love hair metal, whatever you want to call it, but I also love their brutal stuff that they did, with Philip later. So yeah, to me, that was not a change for the worse by any stretch, because look at the success. And it's the same with Def Leppard. It's hard to argue with success. I don't like it, but man, did they sell a billion records? It seems
Well,
like.
I wrote a review back years ago on the Def Leppard, and I said with Def Leppard's fourth album, the English hard rock heavy metal band jumped headlong into bubblegum pop. The album is plastic as can be. 3 years in the making, Hysteria is all about studio tricks, layers of vocals, processed guitars, tons of studio effects, etc. High gloss and completely tasteless. Hysteria is devoid of life whatsoever.
Wow, bringing it with both barrels. Well,
That's just
I-
part. That was the first. I mean, why the heck when what's the singer's name? Come on, help me out here. The singer from Def Leppard.
Joe Elliott.
Thank you.
Joe
When Joe Elliott walked into the room and said, "Hey guys, I got this new lyrics I wrote for this song. What do you think?" And then he said, "I'm hot, sticky, sweet, from my head to my feet." Why did the rest of the band just beat the crap out of him at that point, right there?
Oh man.
On through the night. Man, on through
Now-
the night. So somebody
Now,
said,
if Mutt Lange's wife had sang that song, I could have appreciated it much more.
Sure.
Because that was a different situation. But Def Leppard's but I mean, I guess strippers need songs to dance around poles too. So
Which is their target audience, by the way. Ever been to a Def Leppard show? Holy cow.
so
It's-
Terry says, I didn't think On Through the Night was all that good. Man, I think this is a great record. I mean, Rock Brigade, Hello America is
Hello
on here.
America. Oh, that was a great record. On Through the Night was fantastic.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. Produced by Tom Allen, same as some of the Priest records.
And Mass.
Wasted, Rocks Off. I mean, I think this is a great answer to the master. I love you, Terry. I also love this record. And
I
that's
agree.
okay.
Great record.
Well,
Anyhow, I also agree with Pantera, but the thing about Pantera is they kind of had one crossover record, which was power metal.
Right.
yeah,
Which took-
that sort of linked both styles. I mean,
Yep.
it really did.
It
Sure did.
yeah, it was a good bridge. There were still some high note Philip, but there was on Cowboys from Hell too. But
Yeah, like Cemetery Gates.
But it
He
went
did-
from hair.
fantastic
Well,
thing on-
I was gonna say it didn't go completely from Hairspray, but it went from Hairspray. Now it did. I've got an original Cowboys
It
from Hell.
did. It did go completely from Hairspray. I mean, does that look like Hairspray to you? They did not go to the lingerie shop.
It turned into leather jackets and bullet
Yeah,
belts here.
they did not go to the lingerie shop to buy. They did not go to
Right.
Fredericks of Hollywood or
right.
wherever.
But notice this. This is truly the crossover era because look at the logo, original logo, but they're calling themselves the Cowboys from Hell. This is power metal era, right
Yep.
here when this poster came out.
Yeah.
But then,
So
then the album goes out, comes out in '90 and is Cowboys from Hell. But yeah, that was a pretty seismic shift for those dudes.
Well, and let's just go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, Metallica. I mean, that's talk about a seismic shift. And I know people don't like it when I badmouth them. However, those first three Metallica records are undeniable, and they have earned them so much credit. It's like I get that they're trying to do something a little different.
Wait,
But-
who are we talking about?
Metallica.
Okay.
Okay, but the thing with Metallica, even Def Leppard is some bands they change their sound because artistically they want to try something different. With Def Leppard, Metallica, they went from being leaders to being followers.
Okay, but don't you think Metallica just sort of got complacent and just said, "Look, we want to make money, not music so much anymore. We've made our mark, and now we're going to just do what we want." I mean, that's the way it appeared. That's the way it appeared to me. And I noticed Frazier popping out with Lulu. I mean, how dare you do something like that? I mean, come on, Metallica, give me a break. And I've heard Lars pimp that record as something of musical value and why don't you understand it? You're just not a true music fan because you don't understand what we did on Lulu. Give me a break. That thing's a piece of crap. And I like Lou Reed and I like Metallica.
But I
I
don't
just
feel like that
hate
was a
that.
Metallica. I don't feel like that was a Metallica record. I felt like that was a Metallica playing with Lou Reed and seeing what happened.
Okay,
I never judged it as a Metallica record.
Okay, but then how do you explain Saint Anger?
Well, you don't.
Well, but I tell you this much: Saint Anger is damaged completely by the production. And I will go to my grave saying that if you watch just the DVD actually someone sneaked into the jam room where they play the whole album in its entirety, and they turned on Lars's snare, and it actually sounds okay, and there's some good songs, not great songs, but it's not as bad as Lulu. I'm sorry.
The songwriting's okay, but it's just empty. If any other band had put that thing out as a demo and tried to get signed at that point,
they would have trash canned that thing.
Yeah, they would have been laughed away. But because Metallica's name on it, everybody has to defend the thing. And I'm sorry, that album's trash. And that's what the drums sound like, trash cans.
I don't like it either. And it was a huge change. You know, when the Black Album came out, I think Carcass mentioned that while I was.
But it wasn't a giant step away, though. It was
right.
Still...
the way that I have judged that over the years, the Black Album was phenomenal and it was massive. It was a shift for Metallica. There is no doubt. But when you go see those guys play, those songs are so ingrained with Master of Puppets, with Seek and Destroy. Classics, absolute classics. So I will always defend the Black Album. It is not nearly my favorite Metallica album, but man, I defend them on that because they changed their sound, but they still stayed a heavy metal band. Def Leppard was just a complete screech the brakes and we're gonna make a right and go down the side.
And then they started making excuses for it. I mean, then Def Leppard were like, well, we were never really a heavy metal band to begin with. We were always just a pop band. Bull crap. You were riding that metal wave when it was popular in the 80s, and then in the 90s when metal became a dirty word, and all of a sudden we weren't metal band anymore. Now we're alternative. Now we're pop.
I'm gonna go Johnny Manziel on you right now. It's all about the money, baby.
Well, okay, now I've been wanting to get to Tony's thing because Scott and I talked about this today. Let's talk about Kiss, because Kiss was a rock and roll band until what happened? They put out two heavy metal albums.
To me, Kiss was a heavy metal band in the 70s. That they were one of the heavy metal bands of the 70s. As the 80s rolled around, a lot of the big bands struggled with their sound because heavy metal supposedly was dying. I've got several magazines that said heavy metal was dead that are dated 1978, 79. So a lot of these big bands were trying to find their way and figure out what they were doing. Kiss went the routes of blame production and disco songs and just crap in 79 and 80, but then they came roaring back with Creatures of the Night, and Creatures of the Night is straight up a heavy metal record.
And so Lick It Up,
and then Lick It Up right along with that. Well, then they started seeing success again, and rather than continuing to lead the pack, which they should have been, they started following the trends. Oh, look, Bon Jovi is selling a lot of songs doing this sound, so we got to do what Bon Jovi is doing. And unfortunately, that's where you get, some of the crap they were doing in the 80s, after, like, I actually like Asylum a lot, but the follow-up Crazy Nights, I mean, that album is just not great.
To me, Kiss, man, you have to digest Kiss like a book. It's different chapters. You've got the rock and roll chapter, you've got the heavy metal chapter, you've got the glam rock chapter, which I'm, of course, shockingly, I'm really okay with all the 80s stuff. I thought Animalize was good. I liked Asylum. I liked Crazy Night. Now, some of those songs are better than others, but
Crazy Nights is another one of those albums that suffers from very poor production. It's too clean. It's too processed. It doesn't have any grit. The production robs the band of their rock and roll style.
Richie. I love that boy.
Kiss digests like corn. Corn. I don't remember eating any corn.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I somebody had mentioned someone off my list, MDK McKee. Is he a new listener? Because if he is, welcome.
I would like to mention that we are 14 away from 500 subscribers.
So. Come on, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. But let me tell you what about Opeth. Opeth started in the 90s in that heavy that death metal movement from Sweden that included Grotesque, later to become At the Gates, Therion, Sentenced, Nihilist that became Entombed. And Opeth nowadays has completely done a 190. or a 180, and they basically are a jazz infused Deep Purple cover band, and I personally like it because Pale Communion, which was a couple albums ago, is an island record for me. Now the early stuff, Blackwater Park and Dominion and Orchid and some of those, they're just brutal death metal. But like Therion, their first album is Swedish death metal royalty to me. However, everything beyond that, I mean, now they've got chicks in prom dresses playing violins, and they go to their shows in a tuxedo with a full orchestra in the background. It's like, how did we get from Left Hand Path, like Entombed, to a symphonic orchestra with opera singers? I don't understand. It's too dramatic for me. I don't mind the change. Fraser brought up another one that we can talk about in a bit, but in the Scorpions. But I can see this, like, for example, the Scorpions, the first three Scorpions were real psychedelic, melodic hard rock, maybe a little jazz infused. The early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, there was that real crossover between jazz and rock and roll, and people were trying to figure it all out. But as the Scorpions progressed into their sound, then they got just I lost. I mean, I liked their trend, and then all of a sudden, I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Hey, there's your answer.
So sorry, I didn't mean my phone to go off right there. Yeah, you were talking about Opeth, but see, the thing with Opeth, I think, is they progressed from one to the other, and they weren't necessarily following pop trends on the radio, which a band like Def Leppard obviously were, and Kiss obviously were. There was a lot of bands that were trying that. They were trying, basically, a band like Kiss was like, let's see if we can get into all those new kids to come like us too. And same thing with Def Leppard. Let's get all those alternative fans in here. Well, the alternative fans didn't give a crap about Def Leppard. I mean, they had their own bands back then. They had their Nirvanas and their Soundgardens and whatever else they were listening to. They didn't give one iota crap about Def Leppard. How about Amorphous?
Oh yeah, there's another one.
You're on your own on that one, buddy.
Oh man,
they're part of that. They're part of that early '90s Swedish death metal, and we could go a whole show talking about that. The early, the Gothenburg sound and all those. I mean, there's got to be 60, 70 bands I've got books about that stuff. But
yep.
But they all experimented with this sound, this Gothenburg sound of death metal, a down-tuned, heavy trudging, almost the early incantations of Funeral Doom, and then they got to a second or maybe a third album and just disappeared into oblivion, doing symphonies or something.
Prog rock, prog metal, whatever you're gonna call it, yeah.
But Opeth, Scott, like you said, they didn't just, one day they're doing Ride the Lightning and the next day they're doing Saint Anger. They gradually, a little more clean vocals, a little more proggy sound, a little more instrumentation, and then all of a sudden we're at Pale Communion, and Watershed and all those were leading up to, you could hear it in Blackwater Park and Dominion and that Dominion record that were like a back-to-back, and then you could hear those elements starting to come out, and by the time Watershed or Heritage or whatever, by the time we got to Pale Communion, here we are, full blown, like I said. And I think that was the downfall of their next album, Sorceress, because they thought, oh crap, people are overreacting to the fact that we're a jazz infused Deep Purple cover band now. We better go back to do some of that old stuff just to keep our old fans happy. And they didn't know where they were going. It's like it caused them to lose, like we said, they lost their train of thought. And fortunately, now they're back to the Pale Communion style of whatever. But anyway, that's too much Opeth talk for Rob. I can tell he's drifting.
Oh, no. I am absolutely getting, there are so many moving parts going on at my house tonight and tomorrow. And I've got,
Got your pen and paper handy there, Rob?
I do.
Amorphous, Tales from the Thousand Lakes. If it's not,
I'm all over. I don't think I have it, but
you have it. That's one that needs to be in every Metalhead's collection.
Yes.
That's been on my list for a long. No, I don't. That's
that came out in what, 92, 91, 92?
I think it was a little later than that, but I can't remember. I'll look it up because it's going to make me nuts if I don't know.
I think it was around 92, 93.
We're getting some new Scorpions album love, and
we kind of went off the Scorpions, but I mean the Scorpions. It's the same thing with, you can think a lot of those bands, those German bands, Accept was the same way. Their first album was very different from what they became with the follow-up records. I mean, it was more. UFO's another one, and the UFO started off as like a space rock band,
right? Love it,
and then moved into a 70s heavy metal band.
There's a funny one. So
Celtic Frost.
Yeah, and we can definitely touch on that. Yeah, they
94. 94.
But here's a big band, and I want to see what you guys think about the change here. What about Van Halen?
Yeah, Van Halen made a huge jump from into, what was it? Jump.
like a barroom rock band to a stadium filling AOR band.
Yeah,
basically.
Those first 4 albums, and you may even say first 5 albums, were defining of the late 70s and early 80s sound, and really influential on everybody. They were hard, they were heavy, they had personality, they had great songwriting, they had great musicianship. Then something happened with 1984 and songs like da, 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 Jump.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty well known that Eddie wanted to do more keyboard oriented stuff, and he wanted more melody and not so much heavy hard rock, and that was his direction, and part of the issue with David Lee Roth was he was a party guy, and he wasn't gonna. I mean, he wanted to pull chicks, and that's what Def Leppard did, but he wanted to do it with hard rock and not necessarily with.
Well, I mean, think
keyboards.
about it. Look at that David Lee Roth's first full-length solo album, Eat 'Em and Smile. I mean, he was basically beating Van Halen at their own game.
Right. That thing was a ripper, too.
And then,
I love it.
And then once they got Sammy Hagar in, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not the same. It's more AOR, pop rock oriented than it was this, the hard rock heavy metal that they were doing earlier.
But again, you've got the success explosion. Because we often overthink early Van Halen. We all loved it, but they were not selling well. I mean, I guess they sold okay, but 1984 went took them to the stratosphere. And when Sammy Hagar got in the band, they sold 55 or 60 million records.
Mm-hmm.
DLR's version never did that. Again, we're not debating. We're just talking about bands that changed.
Neither did Gary Sharon's version, by the way. Thanks, Terry.
For better or worse, but we're just talking about bands that changed. Who else have you got? I saw a few things.
I thought
well,
the first 2 Van Halen sold really well for them. Am I mistaken?
No, they sold very well. They were new, but by the time they got to
they're probably platinum now. They're probably multi-platinum now, but not back then. I don't.
Diver Down was a hiccup, and I see somebody. Hey, MBK McKee, I like this guy. I don't know.
Diver Down was basically an EP. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 1/3 actual Van Halen songs, 1/3 cover songs, and then 1/3 fluff.
Yeah.
I agree. And Voivod, they're one of my favorite bands, and everyone lives and breathes Killing Technology and Roar, and I love Dimension Hatros and Outer Limits. So I even like their new stuff. But I just looked back.
Van Halen 1, released on 1978. The album peaked at number 19 on the Billboard charts and sold more than 10 million copies in the United States, receiving the Diamond certification.
Okay, well, screw me.
That's a lot of records. Although back then that wasn't a lot of record. Well, it might have not have been a lot of records. Well, of course, 10 million is 10 million. I don't care who you are.
I was always under the impression that the record sales jumped through the roof when 5150 came out.
Well, that's because they were doing this, and then Sammy joined and they went back up.
obviously I'm an idiot, and I don't pretend
You're
not to be. But
Yeah,
Well, you are, but you're not in this case.
Van Halen 2 came out in '79 and was 6 times platinum.
okay,
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh,
how many did 5150 sell?
No, 51. I'm sure. Like 1984, I bet that one's crazy, because that one had Jump was one of their biggest hits ever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's another band, and this could carry us to the end of the show.
Shoot. You talk about a tale of 3 or 4 bands.
Right.
The album sold 10 million copies. Of 1984 sold 10 million copies.
Okay.
So
5150.
it sold as much as the first record.
5150 peaked at number 2 behind Michael Jackson Thriller. How many copies did it sell, though? Doesn't all the other ones say around the top how many copies it sold? This one does not.
Now and when I'm talking about 55 million, yeah, 5150 did not sell 55 million albums. I'm pretty sure. I
But
mean,
with the
Sammy
Sammy Hagar era.
Yeah.
5150 sold 6 million copies in the United States alone. So it was 6 times platinum in the United States.
I need to fire myself from the show.
We need an engineer.
None of us knew we were all. So, anyhow, where were we at? Oh, Bon Jovi.
We're talking now. We're over to Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath. I mean, you talk about, okay, we have the Ozzy years, but even in the Ozzy years, the first 4 are like Metallica. The first 3 Metallicas are unquestionably great. First 4 Black Sabbaths, unquestionable. Bloody Sabbath, we start to see a little bit of a change. And then by the time we got to Never Say Die and Technical Ecstasy, I mean, I think a lot of people were freaking out at this moment. And I like those records.
I do too.
But I like them too.
It was
didn't
so dramatic.
Yep, they did not go over well when they came out.
No, they didn't.
Van Halen was actually blowing them off the stage in '78 and '79, opening for them.
Right.
So,
they eventually got bounced, didn't they? And then they started their own tour.
I think so.
I agree with Alvaro Rodrigo Villatoro that Black Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath is a masterpiece.
Right, but you can just change happening there. That's all.
Yeah, that's not they're hitting all the bands we talked about. We talked about this one today, Scott. Damn it! I told you were going to get shit production today.
Papa Teacher.
Oh
yeah, Rush. Yeah, Rush.
Yeah, Rob and I hit on that one earlier about that 80s into 90s Rush. It's
hey, look, that's Robert Whitlock from that's the bass player from Ultimatum.
Oh, there you go, Robert. What's up, Rob?
But yep, I agree with Rush too. Although I did like Moving Pictures a lot. I think after that, though, the keyboards started overtaking the guitars, where you almost are there even any guitars on these albums? So yeah, I like the whole Rush catalog, but their '70s stuff up and through Moving Pictures is unbeatable.
Okay, but the question becomes too: was it a good change or a bad change? Is that are we kind of saying like the Black Sabbath thing? I mean, ultimately, I think the change was good. I mean, then it ended up getting us Ronnie James Dio because
and Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, 2 of the greatest metal albums of all time.
So those were great. And then I thought the Tony Martin era was serviceable, and then they got back and did the end or whatever. But I don't know. I listed here. I'm looking at my list. One that Scott may disagree with me on, but Saxon.
Nope, Saxon too. Saxon was trying. They saw the success that bands like Def Leppard were having in the United States, so they went down that route, and they definitely had a more.
Innocence is no excuse, Scott.
Yeah, that album was pretty poppy, but it still sounded like Saxon. But once you got to albums like Destiny and Nation, and songs like Party Till You Puke, and having Elton John guest on your album, those kind of things, yeah, that was definitely a change. But again, they came around and they've been releasing great albums since the '90s. You could also say the same thing about from the same era, same country, Raven.
Yeah.
Hey, now,
Oh, sorry.
That's
Go ahead.
a little bit of a different situation, though. That was, and this happened to a lot of bands. They get signed by the big label, from being on the smaller labels, and then the big labels force them into going into a poppier or a different direction than they or their fans want. And that's what happened to Raven, and it just killed their momentum. I mean, those guys should have been as big as Metallica. There's no doubt about it. They were getting there. Then they put out, that horrible pop album with keyboards and horns and stuff on it, and it was like, what happened? This is not Raven. So they lost their core fan base, and they didn't gain the pop fan base. Whereas Def Leppard may have lost their core fan base, but they gained all these pop fans.
Right.
Mhm.
So, Mega Jeff, we did talk about Kiss, and thank you for checking out the show very much.
I agree with Aerosmith too. Aerosmith definitely changed their sound after the 70s.
Yep. Oh man, I was gonna say, I lost my. I don't know.
Oh, the
That's doing
Scorpions.
great.
Now, we talked about the Scorpions a bit, and I mean, there was a huge change just when they lost Uli Roth. I mean, he was such a big part of their sound, and I mean, I remember reading back in the day that can the Scorpions even survive it? And not only did they survive it, but they took on the world with it and became huge with Blackout and Love at First Sting and all those kind of albums. Then they got Love Drive, and they got lost for a while with. And then he put out that horrible, horrible album that I swear is not the Scorpions. I honestly, it was the year 2000. I honestly think that aliens came down, abducted the Scorpions, and replaced them with exact clones, and they put out just bad pop music.
Well, it wouldn't have been exact clones because they wouldn't have put out something that terrible. So
Clones like them, you know what I mean? It was just like, what was the name of that album? Eye to Eye.
alien clones.
Eye to Eye.
I don't even have that one.
That album is unlistenable. It's so bad.
I need to check it out.
I'd rather listen to Saint Anger on a loop all day long than listen to that album.
So you mean you didn't run out and buy the new Scorpions? You're a little gun shy, shall we say?
No, I'm not. Actually, I did order the new Scorpions, although it's not here yet. But everybody's saying the new Scorpions is fantastic. So
Here's a trivia question for you two clowns. What is the best-selling hard rock album of all time?
Metallica's Black Album, I think.
That is not a bad guess, but that is
Maybe AC/DC Back in Black.
Yep. According to Wikipedia, Michael Jackson's Thriller sold 49.2 million total certified copies, claimed sales of 70 million. Back in Black, number 2 of all time, of albums all time, not just hard rock. Total certified copies 29.5 with claimed sales of over 50 million albums. And you have to dig way down to
What
get
about
to
what about
metal
Pink?
band.
What about Pink Floyd? I thought Dark Side of the Moon or
Pink Floyd 24.4 certified, 44 claimed.
They sort of changed their sound.
Oh yeah, of course they did.
Those
But-
first 4 were so. I think they're unlistable. I know Poser Mark in Houston loves
I have your
The-
answer on Metallica.
the
I
early stuff.
I love the early Pink Floyd stuff. The Syd Barrett stuff.
Yeah,
you-
that's
If you want to say heavy metal album, yes, Scott, you're correct. Metallica is the best-selling heavy metal album of all time with 25.2 million certified copies, 31 million claimed.
See, but I would have in 1980. I would have said that AC/DC's Back in Black was a heavy metal album. So
See, and that's what I think too.
I don't know anybody alive in 1980 who would have said any different.
And that,
so.
man, yeah, I revisited that this week, and it is
Very good
still
rock.
just stunning.
So is Insect Warfare World Termination on there anywhere? No.
What? Sorry, I got distracted. So Glenn Rogers chimes in with, "What up, boys?" So Glenn, you'll think this is funny. There are campaign ads right now going on in Texas for Dr. Glenn Rogers for state senate. And so if I can find a Glenn Rogers campaign sign, I'm going to liberate one and I'm going to send it to you. I've heard the ads. I have not seen the sign yet, but if I can find one,
Button or something, huh?
I'll try to snag one for you.
I have one more on my list that I thought was interesting. That I'm not a huge fan of this band, but I think they went from great to crap in one album. Their first two albums being great, their third album being crap. But Europe,
Yeah.
I love you, man, but get out the Hairspray because the Final Countdown is their finest hour.
oh,
Get out the Hairspray.
it's not even. I mean, but the Final Countdown, the song itself is not even a metal. It's not even a hair metal song. It's just
I
a straight up pop
freaking love that record, man. Hold on. Now,
Well,
I didn't say I hated it. It's just not the same. And their first two albums were so great.
have you heard anything past that? Some of their more recent stuff?
Yeah. They've since redeemed themselves as well. Yep.
Yeah.
it's more along the hard rock line instead of all the glam metal for sure. But to be completely honest with you, I know a little bit of this, but it's just not that far off, man, from the Final Countdown. Superstitious. I mean, it's just not that big of a stretch to me.
Carrie, that's their fourth album right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the first two albums.
I was holding up was. Oh, you're right. Yep, I had them out of order. I'm sorry.
Well, I've got two bands on my list left. We pretty much discussed everything that we've already talked about. I've got two bands, one that made a turn for the better, and one that made an absolute turn for the worst.
Richie, okay, you see this comment on the screen right now?
Yes, I agree with him, but
he is accompanying me to Loverboy, so put that in your pipe and smoke. Yeah.
Richie, hop on the first two Europe albums and you're good to go. Those are great albums.
I'm gonna hold that over his head.
17.3 worldwide most selling album in history, not altogether albums. I kind of understand, but yeah, Wikipedia says that Metallica sold 25.2 and maybe up to 31.
What are you going to say?
I think
Carcass?
Oh, I got two bands. One that made a turn for the better and one that made a turn for the worse. Journey.
Yeah.
Their first three albums were basically prog rock, heavy, like a heavier hard rock. And then the record label basically said, look, you're not selling enough records. And this whole idea, and they were basically the practice band for Carlos Santana.
Yeah.
He's the one that got him the deal and got their foot in the door. And as soon as they add Steve Perry, guess what happens?
Yeah, but
they go Def Leppard.
No, I don't know about that. Not on the first one they did with Steve Perry. When they still had Greg Rowley singing half the songs and Steve Perry singing, it was still pretty solid, hard rock with a lot of melody mixed in and progression of sounds and songs mixing together. As they moved on from there, though, they became sappier and cleaner. And
I liken that to the Pantera, except in a sort of weird kind of opposite way, because I think that the first record they did with Steve Perry was that Evolution, was like was that Evolution or Departure? Evolution. Anyway, it was sort of a crossover record.
Yeah,
had a little bit of Greg Rowley, had a little bit of Steve Perry, had a little bit of melody, had a little bit of pop.
Metal Mayhem, I went back and read your earlier comment, and I see your point.
Okay. Now here, and so last but not least, here's a band that I absolutely love, but they did something so dramatically bad.
Infinity. Sorry.
Infinity. Okay. No, they've never, Ozric Tentacles have never put out a bad record. I'll fight you in the parking lot right now.
I'll get
okay. Violence. One of my favorite bands, even their demo rips. Then they released Eternal Nightmare, Oppressing the Masses, and then Torture Tactics. And then what the actual bleep are you thinking releasing Nothing to Gain? That couldn't have been any more appropriate. That I don't know what that was. And it was so shocking, it killed the band. It literally, it was like a Lulu moment. It literally killed the band. Now, fortunately, they've gotten their act back together, and I cannot wait for this new release that they've got coming out. So thank goodness it only took 30 years for them to, as Scott would mention, to redeem themselves. But what were they thinking with Nothing to Gain?
Hey,
I don't know.
I don't know. Hey, Rob, I got one too, and I know this is probably not one that everybody knows. But how about Guardian?
Yeah.
There's
Blind
a band,
Guardian?
no, just Guardian. The band from the band from LA who put out their first album on Enigma Records was a really good melodic heavy metal album. Then they signed to Epic Records and they put their next two albums out, more of a bluesy hard rock style of metal. And then with their then I don't know what happened after that. Then they started putting out things like Bottle Rocket, and they just went down. They all cut their hair and went down the alternative rock route. And I mean, it's just
Yeah. I hopped off after Fire and Love.
I liked Fire and Love, and I liked the follow up after that.
I did what was that one called? Miracle Mile. Yeah, that was a good one. And then I hopped off.
I didn't even mind the acoustic album because it was just something we're just doing something fun, different. We're doing acoustic. I can get into a band trying something different like that. But yeah, then after that, they were clearly just trying to follow the style of what was popular on radio.
Metal Mayhem 777 said Slayer. Do we need to include them?
In my opinion, this is what's cool about the show. We've all got different opinions, and we all just backslap and high five each other. I never saw enough of a change in Slayer's sound to consider. I mean, it didn't really register on my radar that, oh man, Slayer's changed their sound. Now they did do a punk album, and they did go a little. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I don't think they ever made an intentional, we're going to change our sound and try and follow a trend. I mean, if they did, what trend were they following? Because I don't know of any that they were following.
Yeah, and I know it changed up a little bit, but I think they did a pretty good job of staying. Diabolus and Musica people talk about.
Still a heavy record. Has some speed to it.
Different. I see his point.
How about Anthrax, Rob?
Man, it's another tale of two bands because you've got Joey Belladonna's Anthrax, which is the classic freaking sound, even though they had stuff out before Joey was in the band. But he firmly helped cement that sound. And then John Bush came in, and it was stamped with 90s, man. It really was. It was still heavy, but
what they weren't necessarily following a trend. What trend were they following? They didn't sound like they weren't trying to sound like Alice in Chains or whatever was popular then.
No, but they changed. They got away from that thrashy, like speed metal sound.
They got away from that. I don't know how to describe what they did. It was more of a kind of like what Municipal Waste is doing, kind of fun thrash. And then they changed. It was a little darker.
A little darker, yeah. I thought they got a little darker, and it was just different. But I liked that change, so maybe that's the difference.
State of Euphoria was like they even had the guy from Mad Magazine drawing their covers. They're all caricatures. Funny. And that coming on the heels of Among the Living. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and then Sound of White Noise. It's like, man, yeah. But I love that album.
Okay.
I did.
So the change was good?
Well, I mean, the change didn't work out very well, which kind of sucks, but I liked it because it was a little darker, a little heavier. I had kind of gotten over I don't know, man. I'd kind of gotten over the goofiness, if you will. But as soon as they got him back in the band, to me, the Anthrax sound came back, and I was like, okay, this is familiar. I'm back on board. Like, For All Kings, fantastic. Worship Music, fantastic. Those are Anthrax records.
I agree.
I thought that was when Worship Music came out, I thought that was the metal comeback album of the year.
Let me pop on real quick and answer Mega Jeff's question here. He said, yeah, Guardian went everywhere, but he also said something about changing singers. Yeah, they did change singers from the first album to the second album, but the songs weren't so drastically different that it was like they like changed their style and lost all their fans. They went from being a melodic heavy metal band to being a slightly bluesier melodic heavy metal band when they got Jamie Rowe singing for them. And then they put out another album that was kind of similar in style, which was the one Miracle Mile. It was after that when they jumped on the grunge train that I just thought, okay, now they've just lost it.
And if you want to hear some good melodic hard rock with Jamie Rowe, who's a badass,
Oh, it's
go
great.
check out Adrian Gale.
Great band.
Oh
Yep.
man, he crushes on that stuff. So good.
I think they have what 5, 8 albums out. I can't remember now. I've got all of them. So
Here's let's get to we're at an hour, so let's wrap it up pretty quick. But let's go through a couple of questions real quick. Are you guys excited for the new Creator and Violence records?
yes and
Violence, yes. Creator.
yes. Don't listen to John. Creator rules.
I will check both of those out. I'll check them out.
Also, the new Voivod.
I want to get the new Scorpions record.
I pre-ordered it for some reason from Amazon and it hasn't arrived yet. Everybody else has it, but mine says it's not arriving until sometime next week. So I don't know if they ran out and they're waiting or what. But there's actually several versions of the new Scorpions record. I found out today. There's a two LP version with extra tracks on it.
Carcass will have all 48 colors.
No,
yes,
maybe not on that record. Maybe not on that record, but if it were Lonesome Crow, maybe so.
Yeah. Someday you're gonna have to go through. We ought to have. That's not just a Texas thing, right? We should have an episode just for fun for you to go through all your Lonesome Crow records. Is it Lonesome Crow that you've got so many copies of?
Yes.
Okay, and tell us why they're different. That would be fun.
Okay. I could almost take up an hour.
So, let's wrap it up. That was episode 127. We always love your comments. I do my best to get to all of them. I think I got most of them all posted today. We're 14 subscribers away from 500. And maybe if I can ever figure out who our 500th subscriber is, maybe I can find a couple of goodies to send you. Oh, Scott's dropping hints again.
I'm not saying it's coming out on vinyl, but I might be.
Oh, and if you're a hair metal fan, if you love that 80s hair metal and you like underground stuff, unreleased stuff, demos that never, came out or were just cassette, check out Eonian Records. I've picked them up as a client. I've been working on a lot of stuff for them. And man, if you want the glam metal and the 80s metal, dude, they can hook you up. So check out Eonian for show. Oh, Mark, you asked the most important question of the show. I'm glad I saw that. Monkey Butt is doing very well. As a matter of fact, he is out of state. He lives in Michigan, and he went to he told me.
Oh, that's not good.
He went did some traveling to get to, I think, New York. I think he's at, this is killing me. Anyway, he is having his surgery this week. He was doing prep work yesterday and today, I think. I think the surgery might be tomorrow, but so far, everything has gone as well as it could possibly go for him. And I'm not going to talk about the details of his surgery because it's his business. But he's very easy to find on Facebook. Mark Warner, Wariner. Send him a message. Tell him you're thinking about him because we love him and we're thinking about him. But so far, everything up to the surgery has gone extremely well. So, hey, Mega Jeff showed a bunch of. Oh, okay. So go check out Mega Jeff's Rock Hard Vinyl. He did a video of a bunch of Eonian stuff a couple weeks ago. Awesome. Sweet. That's it, boys. You think I'll remember to play the outro this time?
I hope so.
Me too.
That was a good discussion, and we didn't even get anywhere near into what we could have.
We just touched the tip of the iceberg. And speaking of the tip of the iceberg, I just looked at my projects list. My projects in the jungle is what I call it. My art board, and I've got some extra spaces open. If anyone's interested in T-shirt art, logo work, album cover, whatever, I might as well pimp myself since you guys are just swamped with production stuff. I would be happy to draw somebody a pretty picture or maybe a not so pretty picture. Who knows? And
actually kind of being able to hope you use you in some future projects, but
right on. So
John Art.
At Carcass John Art, hit me up. I just posted something new that I did for one of my favorite new modern thrash bands. I'd say modern. I mean 2004, like Scott requested. Name me a good solid thrash band from 2000 forward, and I think I sent him like 60 names. But anyway, that being said, one of my favorites. Hit me up and I'll tell you who it is later. And hopefully next week we'll have a report on the Arnold Sports Fest from one of our favorite guests.
Yes.
Have him on for the second time. So
yes, that would be great.
Anyway.
Well, I am going to go answer the 5 billion messages I got during the show. Nobody ever messages me during the show, and I have gotten completely blown up. Gary Ireton, you get the last comment of today. Always good to see you. I love you, even though you're an Eagles fan.
Oh,
go Philly.
All right, boys, it is time for the outro. You know how we do it. That was episode 127. Signing off for the Metal Roundtable. I am Metal Rob at I am Metal Rob on Instagram. You can follow the Carcass at Carcass John Art on Instagram. You can find Scott Waters very easily on YouTube by searching Scott Waters. How about that? So check out all the Life Till Metal releases. Check out Aeonian. Check out Brutal Planet. We love all those guys. We've done lots of work with them. Until next time, metal will prevail. Okay, I'm looking for the outro.